Thank you for the survey. Here are all the videos and some of the images taken during the survey. I aim to put it the right way up, but apologies if occasionally one or two films or videos are upside down or 90 degrees. The primary purpose is as a record of the conversation. The conclusions and recommended actions develop as we go along. I will list the items in the email and also on the YouTube video. Looking at the base of the wall, that doesn't look great. So it's been damp-proofed, it looks like it. So before you bought it, looked very obviously damp.
It looked very obviously damp.
Was it owner-occupied or was it tenanted?
It had people in, but not very often, so the family were kind of using it on a one-off basis as they came into town. The estate agent booked a damp report, which is the one that I've shared.
Oh yeah, the Kenwood one.
The Kenwood one, yeah. But when I came in and had a look, it looked like the damp was coming in and all the gutters were full and everything, so I assumed that it was kind of a roof issue. And when the builders were in, they found a hole in the roof, and I was like, well, that'll be the problem. But they fixed that, and we still have some issues. Okay. So most notably in this wall,
around this chimney breast.
Which I don't think is a chimney breast. This is the
okay.
So at least it doesn't go up to a chimney.
I'm only guessing. But no, it's okay.
And then
so this brown staining suggests that there's water passing through building material.
Yeah, and then so this is an extension which was built at some point.
Okay.
And then this is the old end of the house here. And then the external wall runs along this.
So why is it shaped like this? Can I have a look in here?
Please do, yeah.
So there's the kitchen. So it's not going back at all. It's just okay. So that's just recessed for the extension. That makes sense. So if it was a chimney breast, you would obviously have the chimney here.
Yeah.
But you're saying that was the back wall there.
So the shape of the house, the original shape of the house, included this bit of the kitchen.
Yeah.
But then the house was kind of slightly L-shaped.
Okay, that's part of the design.
Part of the design.
One is that this property has already been damp-proofed, and you can see the dots on the outside, so by the front door. But damp-proofing treatment is there to stop rising damp. Rising damps the water under the water table, the groundwater, and in London they pump the groundwater out, so you don't have a risk of rising damp in this area. But what you do have a risk of is things like penetrating damp, which you obviously saw and had, and condensation and potentially a leak. And this area here, so you've got your pipe work is going down there.
Yeah, and the plumber had a look at it, and it's not in that drainage space. So if there is something happening, it's either in the old feed, what was the shower, or it's something underneath.
So it's not this soil pipe anyway,
it's
basically.
Not that, yeah.
Okay, we'll have a look at that.
Later, when the downstairs did.
That's likely to be caused by the guttering on the outside. I'll have a look at that. So I'm looking from the bathroom. It's on your neighbour's side.
Is it?
If you look here, it will say this chap was sent for evidence of rising dampness to the ground floor walls. Then it goes on to say it revealed evidence of dampness. It doesn't say it revealed evidence of rising dampness. It's a little trick that they use. It saves them from being sued by vendors. But so they don't actually say there's rising dampness, they just say there's dampness, and they recommend a treatment which has absolutely going to do nothing.
Especially if it's already been damp-proofed.
Exactly. This is a simple way of testing for a leak. Just to, the stopcock's off outside, the water is on, and what we're doing is we're going to look to see if there's a suck back. Yeah, so I've turned the stopcock off, so it's now at equilibrium. equilibrium, if there's a leak, water be coming out of the system, so it'll need to replace it by sucking water back up through it. So you can quickly see if there's a drop in the level of water there, that indicates a leak. So far it seems to be fine, so my guess is you haven't got a leak.
Okay.
Your neighbour's gully hopper is blocked. You've got a lot of moss up there anyway, but you're getting lots of overflowing water from your neighbour's side. This is why you've got the issue there. You have cracked render as well. Not that that's the primary cause, but just make it worse. So ideally with render, ideally you don't have render, but if you have a crack, vertical cracks are less important than horizontal cracks. If you have a crack, water can get in, it's drawn in through capillary action. You can get a lot of water in, and what you need to do is just slightly enlarge the crack and fill it with acrylic base caulk, external caulk, and then paint it with an impermeable paint. Better for a brick wall not to have render.
Because it actually breathes. Because
it breathes, yeah. When we talk about breathing, it's evaporation.
Yeah.
And if rainwater goes onto a brick wall, it will evaporate out. If you've got render, then you have the risk of getting render cracks, and then water can get in through the render, and then it can't evaporate out, so it moves inside. If you've got a brick wall next to a render wall, which you have in this case, I think they've got a painted brick wall, but anyway, it's clearly got a lot of water, so it's got behind the paint. Then what happens is it won't evaporate out through your render side, and it will go in, which is why you're getting the penetrating damp. So it's caused by the outside, the hopper that's blocked on the neighbour side, but it's made worse by your render, and there is a render crack up there as well, which is a separate thing, but it's also something to keep on top of. It's a sort of an annual thing. Once you've got render, you just need to keep an eye on it, and the problem is you've got expansion contraction, so it's inevitable, and once it's cracked it will come back. So a small gap of 3 mil or less, I recommend external acrylic based caulk, which can expand and contract. If it's bigger than that, you'll need to use a cement based mortar, but the problem is that the cracks will come back with either method, but even more so with cement based mortar, just because it's got no flexibility.
Yeah.
To get the next level is to put it to remove a lot of the render and put it at like 10 centimeters, 100 mil either side, and then stitch it together so that but even then, it can come back. Another way of dealing with it is to fill in the gaps and cracks and put it in insulation, external wall insulation, which is a lot of people are going to go down that route at some stage, because from a net zero point of view, we're going to have to. So that's something to think about, and then you don't have the expansion contraction issues. But you do need to make sure that the render is repaired before you put down on the EWI.
Right.
And
of course, the most extreme thing is to just take all the render off entirely.
Yeah, but it's not without cost.
Yeah.
And it makes it harder because you've got the extension, so you have to put
stitch together. Yeah.
To the access, yeah.
Yeah.
This was external wall, wasn't it?
Yes. The walls, like the one you've lifted, have been replaced and personally with the floor. So they were.
You replaced them, did you?
Yeah, they were in really bad condition in that area.
But you've replaced them with an original style?
Yeah.
So, specifically the dampness there we're looking at. So I encourage owners to get one of these damp meters to doctor meter, moisture meter, and then you can see how the damp's going down over time. So all the zones that look damp are damp. I presume you're not using this shower room.
No.
You can see lots of glistening on this wall. It doesn't seem to be dampness. I think it's just the coating. Relative humidity is normal on the subfloor void. So there's a drop in the level on this water, but that's going to be equivalent to the amount of water that's come out of the other tap. So I don't think you've got a leak. So there's an equivalent to the amount of water. I think you've got a leak because there's water coming out of that, but sorry, there's water coming out of this, but being sucked back. The equivalent's being sucked back. But you can't be sure until a drip like that has been completely solved, and then you can replicate that test. And yeah, so and also you've got electronic water meter. Do you get to see the readings? Can you see it?
Not that I've found yet.
Okay. I think what you've got is one that will send data back to Thames Water for the billing purposes.
Mm.
Another way of looking is when you go away to see whether you've got water flowing through.
Yeah.
But this is a more sensitive way of doing it. Leak under the kitchen floor.
So just under where that radiator is, so the boards are still a bit warped from it.
And this is solid floor underneath you, is
Yes, it is.
it? You've got a bit of damp there as well. Okay.
Yeah. But what we found was that the water, so it came up here and then it ran, because the floor's not totally flat, it ran into that back corner. So,
So you've had to redecorate the back rows over there.
Yeah, it's just in that corner, rather than it coming up this way.
Okay. One thing I will mention though is that a leak the water can move through both water being drawn along, particularly if there's an underlay between the impermeable concrete floor and the underlay, but it can also move through vapor phase.
Yeah.
So it is possible that that's residual dampness
From that leak.
from the leak.
Okay.
But I'm looking for all potential. It's an unusual thing. What I'm seeing are two. Well, what I'm seeing is the calcium sulfate salts here. So do you see this blistering here?
Mm-hmm.
That's from calcium sulfate, which crystallizes. It's quite possible that you have got some hygroscopic salts in here because it's not. Oh, that's not chimney breast. You would have had a chimney there, would you? That's the half. But you can get it the rear of properties and an end of terrace. So in the old days when these properties were built, they would have had horses around here, and you get hygroscopic salts from horse excretion.
Yeah.
And nothing to worry about.
Well, I was just thinking this would have been an internal wall, because this is part of the original building. The extension is only from that beam.
Okay. It's still possible to get them like that, but it's less likely. So this dampness here, I think, is connected to this void here. I'm going to have a look upstairs again now. Data loggers are useful in lots of different ways, and I'm trying to link it up with AI, but it's sort of semi there. bit manual at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But the dew point, and I'll show you that in a moment, is a measure of the amount of vapour in air. It's also the temperature where condensation takes place at. And if you're getting higher levels of dew point in one place compared to another, it's because there's water, active water coming through.
Mm-hmm.
So there are three potential sources of water that are coming into this zone here. One is that there is a leak, and even though your plumber's checked it and said there isn't a leak, it's, there are a lot of joins. There's a lot of. Did you say it's inactive now?
No, so that's still active. So that comes from the upstairs bathroom.
Okay, so we can't rule out a leak on that.
Yeah.
And the data loggers will tell us, and just putting one in there, closing it off, will give a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can penetrating damp from the outside. So I'll have a look at that. And then condensation. So these pipes can be quite cold because they're open to the outside. They'll go outside of the building at some place, and internal vapour can condense on the pipe. Obviously, when it's closed off, you're going to reduce the amount of vapour that's going onto the pipe. So that will give us an idea as well if that's an issue. A lot of what you're seeing could be residual.
Okay.
Because damp wool takes 6 to 9 months to dry out,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes longer with coverings, wall coverings. And you've got lots. So there's another area of penetrating damp up there, and that will almost certainly come from your neighbour's overflowing gutter with the render issue and potentially some cracked render. And the fact that, and this is because this is external wall. It's just sort of like an L shape, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't know, that probably is where the end of the building, because that would have been a window where that door now is.
I'll have a look upstairs to give me a better idea. So the bathroom extractor fan is running fast at 19 litres. It needs to be 15 or more, which it is. And the great thing is you can see straight out. One of the flaps is broken, but that's not going to affect it. But make sure to keep the door closed and the fan running for half an hour after a bath. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it's damp up there. It's down there. It's probably got stain block on it, which is why you're not seeing so much of the damp coming through. So we're now looking at outside the door. You can see the render crack, large one there. This is immediately above the damp zone downstairs. And cracks there, and the tiles, you're not going to win awards, but there's a bit of a crack. It looks like it's been cemented, so it's probably fine. So I'd say that little roof section is okay, but obviously your neighbour's is not looking great at all. I imagine this roof is fine, but it looks like somebody spent a lot of time repairing it. It could be worth just removing. Well, I didn't see any dampness from the roof, so I don't think that's the issue there. There's a crack over there. There's a crack, render crack there, and everything we discussed before. I'll have a closer look now. Damp near the cold water pipes, it would be worth insulating those. You can get condensation from at the cistern as well. There you go. So this is what it should be. This is the background, 63%. closer to the shower and it's going up. It's looking 100% there. You get condensation forming on the system. So you want to have your extractor fan set to 30 minutes. It's probably about 10 minutes now. There's damp up in the corner here. Travelling quite a long way. Seems to be okay here. Oh, going a bit higher. That's probably condensation because it gets cold in that zone. So I'm just going to check the whole wall. And it's dry now. Nice dampish. What's happening on your neighbour's side? Are they there, or what do you know about them?
They're both on both sides. They're in and have been for many years.
Oh, I thought you were end of terrace for some reason.
No, there's neighbours on both sides.
Ah. Right. Oh, there's the damp proofing treatment. You can see it inside. You see this line of. So what they do is they remove the plaster and they put in an impermeable plaster, and you often get this line of dampness just at the top because what happens is the vapor gets in but it can't get out and it gets trapped. So you don't normally see it brown. So I'll have a look on the neighbour's side. Well, I'll knock on the door, and if they're not in, knock if you can, and then maybe ask her about whether she has a damp issue there, specifically there.
In that front corner.
In that front corner. Are they sort of reflections of each other? Or are they?
So the house on the left-hand side is exactly the same layout. The house on the right is in slightly different place.
There you go. Well, one thing I'd say is that when a property's been damp-proofed, it can push dampness in very unusual ways. So it's not necessarily it's anything to do with the source. It's just damp-proofing treatment hides the damp rather than deals with the root cause.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to get into the inside, but I can see on the outside a couple of problems. So they have cladding, but then it's exposed. So what can happen is the water can run down and then find the brick, and then you get a lot of water in the corner there. And we'll have a look on the other side as well. To mention is that you don't have through flow ventilation because it's blocked in the back, and the original design was to have air bricks to the front and back. It's not a problem. You can mitigate it by measuring the subfloor relative humidity. I'm concerned about this. That your drain's blocked, and so you're going to get water in the subfloor void. Easiest thing to do is to have a pipe that moves the water to the street. You can get a CCTV and a sleeve, but you've got a tree above the pipe, so it's almost certain that it's broken underground. Probably not worth doing it. But then you've got this issue with your neighbours having cladding here, and it stops the breathability, and then this is painted brick, and the water can just get in through the paintwork. Oh, you've got a crack there. You've got a few cracks. Oh, there's lots going on from the outside. But so your neighbours have got a cladding, which, while it's probably got some breathability, it's going to reduce the breathability of the wall. And there are zones where it's not clad, and that's where you have your risk. So the wall juts out, and I think what's essentially happening is that that's penetrating damp from the outside. The other thing is your drain is blocked. It looks very blocked. And,
on our side?
Yeah, it's on your side, but I mean, it'd be shared, but it's on your side, be your responsibility. You've got a tree growing above it, so I don't think there's any chance for water to drain away, so it's going to go in underneath the subfloor. And if you look here, a lot of the timber's rusted. So even though the relative humidity over here seems to be fine, it's showing 70%, which is, you know, I worry when it goes above 85, 90%, but I have been seeing it more like 65%, so it's a bit on the high side. But because your floor is stripped and all those little gaps will create some form of ventilation, I think it's masking the issue. And I think you've got an issue in this corner from two things, or three if you like, but rainwater, just the natural rain that's falling on the roof. It's nothing to do with the guttering per se, or at least I didn't see anything, but it's just coming through the difference between the cladding, and then you've got the block drain. You know, ideally you have consistent coatings. You've also got cracked render on the front. So essentially you've got three types of material. You've got your render, which isn't which is on that side, isn't letting any water in.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the brick, which is painted, but the paint is peeled in places, so that's letting water in. And then they've got cladding, and it's those combination of different surfaces that's causing it. Plus you've got the render crack,
Yeah.
plus you've got the water there, which is causing penetrating damp, which is why you're getting the brown staining. So the damp proofing treatment is hiding it, but it's not dealing with it, and you run a risk of rot in the subfloor void. When you've got open strip flooring, you're less likely to get rot, but even so, what I would just do is bypass the drain by putting in an elbow and a drain out to and a continuous down pipe out to the street.
Mm-hmm.
Just put an elbow. You've got square guttering, which is not great but anyway, you'll find attachments for that.
Yeah.
And then just a long pipe out onto the street. And I would bet your neighbours have the same unless they've had damp proofing treatment. But damp proofing treatment is not dealing with the problem; it's just hiding it. Outside to see if there's any issue, but upstairs in the top corner is damp. There's staining, so it could be that it comes from the cooker, as you said, and it's difficult to differentiate between the two. But it's damp, and it may well be from condensation, and those areas are vulnerable for one, penetrating damp because of maybe overflowing gutter or something to do with the roof. But also because they get lots of heat loss because it's up at the top of the wall. You can't get insulation into the corners easily in the roof, and then you've got the slope of the roof means that naturally you're going to get a lot more heat loss. Oh, and also between the two properties, you normally have the party wall, which means that you've got a section of brick that's standing out of the building, gets heat loss and acts as a thermal fin, and also you have and potentially it's unprotected on top. So I'll go and have a look at those. So why not just adjust the timer on the bathroom? So normally you can get it to half an hour. Did you put the fan in yourselves?
No, we didn't put the fan in, but I should be able to figure it out.
Yeah, it's easy. Just take the cover off, and
Adjust
it's normally clockwise on something.
Cool.
Use AI to help guide you. If
Indeed.
not, I'm just going to calibrate them, bring them into line with this, but you can see there's quite a lot of variation, particularly this one here. So you just calibrate them like this. It'll be calibrated on the phone, not on the data logger itself.
Yeah.
So if I do 4 point. Two things I'm looking at. One is the relative humidity, but specifically the surface relative humidity. So that's taking into account the temperature of the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Roughly 1 degree drop in temperature increases the surface relative humidity by 5%. So even though at 18.26, you've got 66% relative humidity in that corner where I think it was 14 or something, that will push up the relative humidity by about 20%.
Which is enough to get down.
Which takes it to get enough milk because you're going above 85. Yeah. Exactly. So and then I look at the dew point and I compare dew points within between loggers at different times, and then also outside. So I get the external dew points and humidity and temperature. So if you press the green number there,
This one?
yeah, or any of them, either of them, but so that's downloading the data. The data's stored on the loggers, and then it's transferring it onto your phone, and then I'll get you to send it. I'm just going to look to see whether there are clear and obvious signs of blocked gutters and issues on the outside. But I might as well go through a summary of what I think your issues are. So you primarily got penetrating damp, and you can tell that because of the brown staining, and the brown staining at heights that would be higher than a leak would rise to typically. But you did have a leak there, and that can have affected this. Now, this I would say just it's not obvious where this is coming from, because this is an internal wall, so it isn't cold per se, but this subfloor is going to be a similar temperature to the outside, so you can get condensation forming even on the subfloor. And when people have damp-proofed all or a lot of the walls, you're hiding the problem, and it's not dealing with it, it's displacing it. So I'm going to make lots of recommendations, primarily focused on the penetrating damp side, but there will be also some condensation related issues, because clearly you do have an excess vapor issue, otherwise you wouldn't be getting mold in different places. So the general rule is you can get mold from the water that's coming through from the penetrating damp, particularly where you've got poor airflow. But if you've got mold in a number of different places, which you have here, that aren't specifically related to the penetrating damp, then that suggests an excess vapour from insufficient ventilation. So the kitchen extractor fan doesn't go out, which is going to be one thing. Simple solution for that is cook with tops on pots and pans. So you're reducing the production of vapour by about 80%. Keep the door closed as much as possible. Obviously window open as much as you can. Run a dehumidifier, 20 litre dehumidifier. And if you're drying clothes internally, you should run a dehumidifier as well. Bathroom, you've got a good fan, but it ideally it should have at least it should be a half hour overrun, and door kept closed when not in use. And then sort of so respiration is the primary source of vapor, us humans. Not much we can do about that, but just recognise the fact that any vapor that's brought into the property needs to be removed either through ventilation or dehumidification, and dehumidifiers are a really good way of doing it. So let's go back to looking at the data on the data loggers. So this 11.7 is high. You want to try and keep it below the outside temperature.
Okay.
In a well-ventilated property, you're replacing internal air with internal vapour levels, with external air with external vapour levels.
So you get condensation if it's...
Because the outside dew point can never be above the outside temperature, otherwise you get condensation, which is what rain is. You'll if you've got perfect ventilation, you're always replacing internal air with the external air, which has external dew point. So a well-ventilated property will never have a dew point above the outside temperature.
Okay.
But you don't have to be perfectly ventilated, you just need to be optimally ventilated, which means keeping below the outside temperature. Because inevitably in every property there's going to be somewhere that's close to the outside temperature, either because you've got the cold water pipe running through, or you've got a void like in that area there, or you've got poor airflow, or you've got poor insulation. Those are the four principal reasons. So use ventilation and dehumidification to drop that. There's no other way of doing it. That's the only way. And a lot of people I've got the first client I had this month was a German client who opens the window for 10 minutes in the morning, and that works really well. It drops it immediately, but then it starts coming back up again.
Of course.
And so I think even the German method, as good as it is, isn't sufficient for modern day living. and particularly working from home because
you're there
you're
respiring lots.
Yeah, not much you can do about that. But during COVID, the level of condensation and mold went up quite dramatically. Working from home. What I'll get you to do is do this. You can do the first one, and I've got it on film. But you might as well do them all now today before putting them back. If you want to do some more in a week's time and put one of the data loggers into that void just to see whether there's any leaking coming from there, and seal it up. I'm trying to create an AI system. As much as I can do some for some people, I can't do them for everyone because they do take a long time. But the more I'm getting AI to do it, the more it's taking off, and you'll be able to put lots of information in. The more information you put in, the better, and you can put in things like, this data loggers in this void from this time, and all of that information will be really helpful. So now press the calculator sign top right, export sign top right, export CSV. So all the numbers now been updated for the calibration. So press 2 and then send it to simon@dampsurveys.com. I normally come up quite quickly at dampsurveys.com. Unless it's a different
No, it should be the same.
.com. Right, now press anywhere and then it's blue and then you can send it.
Simple as that?
Yeah, and then do OK and then back a few times until you get to the first screen.
Cool.
Again, do it one more time.
So then and then I do that for the other ones because that was the kitchen one.
Yeah, do it for the other. You might as well do it now.
Yeah.
No, you've done that one already. You know which. This wall, I think if you deal with all the penetrating damp and the condensation, I think it will disappear. And the way you'll know that is by using this wall. I think it's a combination of penetrating damp and condensation, possibly with the issue of the leak in the kitchen. All of those have, the leak has gone away, and the condensation and penetrating damp you're going to deal with. The vapor in the subfloor void is out of juice now, but it was showing normal levels, even though you had vapor over there in the corner. I think it will go away. It is possible you've got some hygroscopic salts. They don't normally present themselves in that way, but you'll need to give it probably about 6 to 9 months before you'll know. But you'll start to see some improvements over time. Yeah. Just talking about EWI, external wall insulation, and you want to fill all the gaps on the existing render. I mean, you can take the render off if it's really badly damaged, but it doesn't look that badly damaged, it's just got lots of cracks. They need to be filled in. The biggest cost is the scaffolding. So you might as well get that sorted out and then put the EWI, external wall insulation, on top. Be careful of what's called shallow fit insulation. That's where they don't insulate around various things like down pipes. Ideally, it should be insulated fully, but you obviously can't insulate around windows as much. You can use certain types of insulation that have much better insulation capacity, and you can do some insulation on the inside. But there's always a risk of what's called thermal bridging, but that essentially is still, you want to keep the internal vapor levels down, and then that does mitigates thermal bridging.
Yeah.
I also mentioned that you don't have any subfloor ventilation all the way through.
No.
But it doesn't matter when the floor's stripped, but you can put a hygrometer probe like I had in to measure the subfloor humidity.
Yeah, because this floor, before we lifted it, had these boards, and then it had carpet, and then it had the boards which are now in the kitchen over the top of it, so it may also have contributed to just the overall level of dampness.
Well, that might explain that damp wall there as well.